Welcome back, everyone, to VALORANT Challengers North America Stage 2. A 2-0 for our first series of the day, with YFP being the victors, taking down Winthrop in a really strong fashion. We'll have to see if that continues on forward as we have our next collegiate hopeful, Blinn Esports, going up against one of the top dogs that we have here in the league, M80. Right away, though, we got to talk about the big news that is hitting M80 here, Jen, and that comes in the form of this tweet. We got to talk about Nitro stepping down, and Net is in.
That was my face when I found out live.
I think it's everyone's faces, honestly.
So yeah, Nitro bench, Net stepping in. Nitro also was their IGL, so this is a big piece of the equation now gone. So you're wondering, is his style not something that fits with the team? Because this is not the first time M80 have had a carousel of IGLs, thinking about John Quixote in the past. So if you guys know Net, he just competed with G2 and VCT Americas as their Sentinel player, and we don't really know for sure if he's stepping in as the IGL or not.
I mean, if you don't know Net from G2, then you're following Challengers, and you definitely know Net from the guard run in last year's Challengers and being able to be that team that ascended. So finding himself now on M80, a team that we have talked about a lot here. This, I'm so intrigued to see. I love the quotation with that tweet as well. Like, if you can't beat them, join them, make them join. I think it's just absolutely awesome. But Tenric, Net's definitely a fragger that is very capable of helping out this team with a couple of these issues. Looking back at the rest of the roster, I mean, I think this fits in quite well. We'll have to see once we get into the battlefield, but I'm just pumped. I can't stop rambling. I'm just so excited.
I think it's just really exciting that M80 gets to continue being M80. When you get rid of someone as important as Nitro to any team, you really hope that its core, its message, its intent kind of remains. And that level of aggression we see from M80, that in-your-face mentality that they go for, Net encapsulates that and then some. He is such an exciting duelist to watch on G2. He will be such an exciting player to watch on this team. I'm nothing but excited.
I mean, Net filling in at Senti, so good going on forward. And going on to this M80 roster as well, I think this will be a fun fit here, Jen. I mean, M80 is this storied team that we got to see 2 roster changes hit them as players got picked up into the big leagues here. And we know the fire potential that this team has. And we could see either look. It could be Net stepping in for the IGL lane. It could be Xander. But regardless, when this team is cooking, they cook.
Yeah, and no one's been able to cook them back except if your name is Turtle Troop or most recently Oxygen. But Oxygen, of course, are mid-season cup champions, so no surprise, Turtle Troop going to the finals. So only the best have been able to beat M80. So you're wondering, is Net going to be an upgrade, or is it going to take some time for M80 to adjust to them? But what a nice, I don't want to say warm-up match, but you're facing a team that came out of relegations, and now I guess that collegiate throne could be open with how we saw Winthrop perform just now. So Blinn could really surprise us and maybe catch M80 in a weaker state.
I can't believe for a second I thought you were gonna call Blinn like the warm-up team for M80 here as they're getting stuff together. I'm sure no, it can't be. It can't be.
Could be a really good warm-up. It could be a really good warm-up.
Talking about Blinn Esports taking on this M80 team today. Yes, this was the team that promoted out of our promotion relegation tournament, but I think it's a team too that really came into this firing on all cylinders, even if they are just the complete underdogs, not just in this series, but in this league here, Tenric. They're a team that have surprised me, and even if on paper this should be an M80 win, I think there's kind of a little more to that.
Yeah, this Blinn squad, ever since really getting back into Challengers for Split 1, all 5 of these players have been in their own sort of renaissance era. Okeanos has never been more able to be enabled by his teammates. He is a star-studded duelist at this stage. Mikey continues to be one of the most dominant forces in T2 Valorant, like, ever, and it's starting to show in the kill feed as well, which he was unfortunately lacking on a bit in Split number 1. And like we talked about a bit in the green room, Spaz and Teague, 2 players that were playing such great support for those backlines in Blinn's history, have really stepped up to the plate when it comes to putting up numbers, even though they unfortunately did drop that 3-map excursion to TSM in their opening match this split.
I mean, let's look back at what Blinn have been able to accomplish here in Challengers. I mean, we're going from the most recent to the most far back, of course, starting off with the promotion relegation tournament. And even if the last 2 weeks were losses here, Jen, when you look at who they are up against, I think this actually sparks a lot of hope here for any Blinn Esports collegiate fans out here, because a 1-2 loss to Turtle Troop? Come on now, that's fine. TSM, great players, that's fine. Like, these are getting to be competitive series.
Yeah, and they just placed third, I believe, in the Collegiate VALORANT Championship. So they've been keeping busy between the Mid-Season Cup, between week 1 to now. So yes, Blinn go to a lot of deciding maps. So that really tells me that Blinn have map strengths, but also a lot of map gaps or map weaknesses. So I'll wait until the map selection comes up. But Blinn are a team that Challengers hasn't played against that often, unless you were in collegiate, unless your name is Winthrop. So I think Blinn can come out here as a team that's underestimated, not respected, and M80, I mean, they're trying to fix their own fires in their camp right now, so they may not be as worried about Blinn.
I mean, that's definitely a way that we could see the upset here in this series. I think this M80 squad, I think Net is such an accomplished player, such a backbone sentinel on this team, that even if it's an M80 that's going under some fires, this should be a tough matchup for Blinn. But I don't want to underestimate the firepower that we get to see coming out from the squad. I mean, you're talking about the potential fraggers on the team here, Tenrek. The first time that we saw Blinn, I was like, okay, it's just Okeanos goes out there and frags. But being able to see that everyone can really step up here, I've been thoroughly impressed with the roster as a whole.
Yeah, and this is a squad that's been filled with moxie since the very beginning of this season. A team constantly thrown into the doldrums of promotion and relegation, and the bottom tier of the mid-season cup, getting probably some of the toughest matchups we've seen seeding-wise since the end of last season. They have constantly been faced with uphill battles, and that's why they're so about action. That's why they're such an explosive roster to watch, and that's why I expect them to look better and better each week. Like you said, this is a team that is just rife with potential that we are seeing materialize on the field right in front of our eyes, just hasn't materialized into that important win that could really etch them into this conversation for Challengers.
I mean, it's definitely a difficult road up ahead, but not an impossible one. But Jen, going into our map picks and bans, you said depending on the maps is where you would really put your stocks in this series. So first impression, how is it?
Okay, there's a lot to break down here, because Bind is the map you have to pay attention to. Who is going to get to pick or ban Bind first? I say that because M80 has first banned Bind like in almost every single one of their Challengers maps, while as Blinn, Bind is one of their favorite maps. So M80 got to ban Blinn's favorite map out first, and then M80 got to pick Breeze, which they've played this twice, both times against TTR, which you guys know how that went. But what's interesting about Breeze as our first map is that Blinn liked to play the double duelist with the Yoru, so that's quirky and fun.
I love quirky and fun out here, and I believe it was Teague that we got to see on the Yoru as well, taking a break from Initiator and going on over to that. Then this is where I was first like, wait a second, like I like what I'm seeing here. So I think Breeze should be a lot of fun. I don't think this is one that necessarily M80 are too bad on. I mean, their loss recently to Turtle Troop was quite close. So even though we don't get to see Breeze from them too often, I don't think this would be bad for them whatsoever. There is definitely the possibility of really strong luck coming out here. Icebox for our second map, though. This has been an M80 staple. People have been banning this out against them. They have not liked this. So I think if we see a good look at M80 on Breeze, this could be a 2-0.
It's true. M80 really loves Icebox, and Blinn really loves getting Icebox picked by the other team on them. It happens in seemingly every match we walk into. It is that secondary that is off of Blinn's hard bans, because it is a notoriously choke-worthy map that Blinn has stepped to the plate on. Very integral matches in which they have dropped the ball, including those initial promotion games to get them into Challengers in the first place, where they initially missed out. It's been really interesting watching these guys try to take on this map. map, and they've done it most notoriously recently with the Swamp Comp again, that they picked back up after kind of losing with it for about a month straight in this mid-season area. But like you said, M80 excels so hard on this map. It's going to be a scary number 2.
And with Net also in the lineup, what is that going to look like? Does he just sit in Nitro shoes and play the Cypher and we'll call it a day? I think avoiding bind means you avoid any kind of weird comps. M80 can stick to their standard, and avoiding bind is a huge part of that success for M80. So this is going to be good.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how Net just kind of fits with the team off the rip. I do definitely think that given the agent pool, that this could just be a pretty easy slot in. It's just adapting to the playstyle that M80 likes to have, considering they are known for this aggressive team that just kind of like out of the gate. And even if M80 Gen throughout this split have kind of struggled a little bit to be that M80 that we've talked about, when you're looking back on that history, I mean, they are taking losses to tough teams in a Challengers that keeps improving. So don't want it to dismiss them too quickly on what they're capable of.
And I think if you're going to slot someone in and out, I think the Sentinel is the perfect key, especially on a map like Breeze, where the Sentinel, the Cypher can play by themselves or with a Viper, which Viper doesn't even exist in this meta as much anymore. So it's just really the calling and how they're going to get used to a different style of calling, whether it's just now it's maybe more democratic where everyone pitches ideas. Is it Net that's going to pick and choose and take on a new role and pick up more experience on that? I'm hoping to see a strong M80, but this is the big question mark we have today.
That'll be the interesting one, whether it is Net just kind of like straight stepping into the role, or whether we get to see someone already on the team like Xander pick up the reins for that instead. And that's definitely going to be a question that I have for them after the map if they're able to take this victory. But again, I'm really hoping here that for Blinn Esports Henrik, that we do get to see the strong showing coming out from them.
Well, I think we'll have a good amount of opportunities to do so. Blinn love playing the distance. They love going the distance. I mean, they took TSM all the way every single time on these maps, and I expect them to take M80 a good distance as well. I think, again, Breeze is going to be that one moment they can get a foot in the door. They need to do it early. They really need to collapse onto this team that, like you said, may have had to throw the whole playbook out. They're writing one right now. They're writing it in-game, probably. They might come up with a couple crucial plays in this very map, but it's got to happen here. And for Blinn, this is, again, a crucial opportunity for them to make a huge jump up in Challengers. I sound like a broken record when talking about them.
But you're not wrong, you know? So let's see if Blinn Esports, if they have what it takes on our first map to take their map pick, or what form M80, it's get to Agent Select.
Oh, we get to go to the beach. It feels nice to also see Viper back, but also the double duelist out of Blinn, and how this is going to be executed. Because, hey, I guess the spot for #1 collegiate team could be opening up soon.
I suppose so. And that's always a contentious argument, isn't it? Everyone in CVAL is fighting tooth and nail. It's a different environment over there, really. And Blinn are one of the pioneers in it. It's where they were able to stick their head out a little more before being able to contend more consistently in Challengers. And it's funny, as they've been able to play in Challengers a bit more, their CVAL performance has slightly dipped a little bit. Go figure. Isn't it weird how, like, if you stretch yourself thinner, you might perform a little bit worse in other respects? That's so weird and hasn't happened before. But here, for Blinn, for Teague, on the Yoru, my eyes are glued to him, as they normally are when it comes to map openers, just because that really is going to set up the argument that Blinn tries to make for the remainder of this map. How deeply can you cut into a defense that may not have it all figured out?
And I think with a map as large and as kind of a slower play style with how big this map is, this is where the IGLs have more than enough time to really plan things out and keep the team composed and play off of that information, where you saw just how impactful Sovas were on Ascent in our last series. We'll imagine their impact here on how you're going to address where the defenders are on the sites, and maybe what kind of confidence will we see out of M80 facing a team that they may not think is at their level. Are they going to do some more ego challenges type thing, or are they going to want to play more at a slower pace to see if their fundamentals now with a new Sentinel is there?
Blinn loves to isolate to conquer, and M80, that is one of the things that they may be susceptible to in this metamorphosis that the team is going through. This new slot in will be stuck up on B site. That's where Ned will be hanging out for the majority of these first 12 rounds, as Blinn attempts to make their first call up mid, see what they can find. It evidently won't be much.
Now with the Viper nerfs too, you see that M80 are just playing at the back of B site, and it's going to be interesting to see the adjustments there. But the hit from Blinn into A already. But Koala Noob is just on the right side of pyramids, and this is the first place you gotta clear on offense. I'm surprised that Koala Noob kind of goes undisturbed. And with all the picks that M80 got, this is a pistol round in the books. Muncie and Spaz are on other side of the map too, so this is not going to bode well for trades. At least Muncie will make his way towards B, and the Viper wall not in place, so we'll have vision of who is there and when, while Spaz wants to maybe catch rotates. He was already pressuring the defender's nest and hasn't found anybody.
Well, he'll at least be able to clear out one of the spaces, but gotta commit to this choice, and it's gonna be one that doesn't look like it'll have anybody. Xander will step back here and play from nest with the remainder of M80, who are gonna start waltzing on in. Couple resources to throw at the wall, but of course so many more people to deal with, and Spaz is unable to. Muncie having to play the long-range classic. Can't do it either, and a dry execute that kind of just fed Teague to Koala opened up momentum for M80 to kind of just take that round pretty easily from there.
I was just deciding who's getting the defuse there. But, and Blinn, I mean, they had a good start of taking mid control. Can't remember what util they threw over the wall there, but Blinn just didn't get really any info, and also didn't clear the right side of pyramids, kind of didn't take the appropriate steps. They had that mid control and came through wood doors, but Koala Noob is a duelist to worry about.
This is a nice spot.
Certainly. Oh yeah, you never take your eyes off Koala Noob, especially on this defense. He will not be flanking very often, but he will be holding, and that is something that a lot of M80 doesn't necessarily like to do. He is the actuality on the site that Blinn will end up recognizing and choosing most times. But they'll start on A site, vie for the cave orb, vie for what little control they can manifest with this gun diff that Teague is going to try and play right through, picking up that Marshall.
Oh, Muncie got info too, and with the Viper smoke in the way, Blinn's escape is hidden. And now this is where Breeze, they're slowing things down, and it's really a test of mind games and what rotations you can really pull, while M80 have eyes on mid, so they're seeing that Blinn aren't there. Koala Noob gonna readjust with the Outlaw, and this can be a pivotal spot to stop this Blinn hid. Might have spotted Teague there on the other side. And, oh, the Sonic, you gotta turn and burn for that, and M80's backline is about to be challenged. Blinn step up right in the front of the site, but they can't seem to find them. M80 get the pings, and it sets up Koala and BCJ to go unscathed so far. Blinn established themselves, but then didn't really know what plan B was after getting into the site.
That was a crucial pocket of time while Koala Noob was reloading to really go into the back line and just play to lose even 3 to grab 2, whatever advantage you can get to clear out that B site, but Blinn just could not commit to the bit fully. They played as too much of a unit on site itself and just could not finalize those shots before those wide open angles got opened wide, and M80 able to play off of those very easily. The round suddenly turns head and tail into back staunchly into M80's favor, which they'll attempt to play through into round 3 here as Blinn once again set their sights on A early for B potentially late.
Oh,
wow.
Koala Noob still with the Outlaw, misses that, doesn't even get a hit on Spaz at all. And Blinn, see if they want to fight for A orb. They've sent 2 down this A hallway. And now with Okeanos getting his position revealed, BCJ has the upper hand, even with the assist of Koala Noob. This is A hallway in Blinn's favor, giving them yet another angle to peek behind this orange box at the A site to get an upper hand on M80's defense.
Big stopper for the crunch as BCJ will lose some chip in exchange for that mid presence. Blinn having to fully abandon that after not fully clearing the rest of A site. Okeanos is that best bet for Blin's attack at this point, fully invading Hall and having seriously 0 counter thus far. But still so much weight shifted on M80 despite that, to the point where could he have inserted too far? How much value can you get when the spike still is not down, and Xander has already peeked into the ether, blind on top of 2 defenders that cannot be finalized either. Spaz has to pick up the pieces, and granted, 2 people's worth is solid to even things out, but my oh my, 20 seconds to go. It is crumbling.
That was some shots of all time. So Blinn now at 13 seconds after not being able to figure out which site they wanted to plan at with such good A-hallway control from Okeanos. Monty's gonna get the plant in the last 5 seconds. He's well protected by the pyramids. M80 have a great split from the back of the site to on the flank to where Koala Noob is with the Outlaw. Blinn just have to anchor themselves on the site, and Monty with the recon may get some info on net, and it enables Okeanos to get a swing on him, leaving Koala Noob in a 1v2 with the Outlaw and the headshot. Disgusting. M80 get a 3rd round.
It may not be necessary, but boy is it entertaining. Excellent retake from M80 after the site control was very suddenly strong from Blinn, able to really contain a lot of the movement that M80 was trying to utilize to get a little closer to this spike, and that feels like it's going to be an important part of this attack for Blinn, is just playing keep away, especially when you don't necessarily have that consistent flank watch either. That really opened up the board for M80 to take back over and keep this streak going.
Just not being able to get that double kill there when you had such a good flash on the M80, like that always hurts your chances. And then this ring around the rosy of A site, B site, A site. You don't love leaving it down to the wire for the plant, but you love Koala Noob. With the assistance of Nismo's flash, first blood onto Teague, 1 duelist out of the way, 1 more to go. You were hyping up Okeanos. How can he help Blinn turn this whole round in their favor? Because Muncie's still pushing up with the spike, by the way, and his team isn't there.
Yeah, this is
slightly concerning.
Very interesting to see Okeanos just join the gang, but I mean, it's where he plays strongest. He's got to be enabled off of the midway, especially if he's going to play with his Guardian. BCJ, though, can just turn around and clear them all. Why not? Muncie forced to go it alone, and why not just reveal yourself now, get it over and done with. Please let this be over and done with and get us to a 4-0 game.
Nice. Like, I mean, PCJ got really good spray control, especially having that half walls of protection. That's already a tough gunfight to approach coming from the mid double doors, and Blinn loved to go there, but then they had no A main pressure. They had their spike there, which that could have been disastrous in itself, and Blinn could have punished Koala Noob. Like, after he dashed out, they could have. They have 2 duelists. They have the mobility. But Blinn don't have the confidence that M80 have.
It really does mean so much. But that confidence is very much accelerated when you have a dimensional drift, which Teague is going to use to try to scope out the holders on B site. So much of it cleared, and a Hunter's Fury to dip into the pool as well. Make sure that Blinn have full access to this, and yet Xander is still closer than they prefer. So Hunter's Fury tossed in to assist and make sure the rest of M80 can come careening back without too much lost in the process.
Oh, Koala Noob is also coming from behind with the Blade Storm, and he's going to have the backs of a lot of members. 1, 2, Toodaloo, looking for the 3rd. Teague is gone too, and there's only Okeanos, and I've already put too much pressure on him. Of course he's going to crack. M80, relentless.
This is so gross. Another flank. Just completely throwing a wrench into the pacing of this team, which otherwise looks good. That execute onto site was rock solid. Sure, a booster seed of ultimates, but a site nonetheless. They had so much control over until you just have one wanton Koala. Eucalypt, this guy is crazy. Has anyone made that? Has anyone done that one before? I feel like that's a pun somebody would go for before me. But 10, 1, 2, 5 deep. This is a stellar performance from this Jet in every respect.
Absolute sweat. And even Koala Noob just swinging out of A like that. Like, he went uncontested mostly. Even in the first pistol round, he just held the right side pyramid, and Blinn...
He's just hanging out half the time.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He's just chilling.
Spaz is chilling too, but he's like, I'm not the problem. I'm top fragging. I don't know if 3-5 is what you want to... I don't know if that's what you want to hang up on the fridge. It's Blinn needing to... How can you punish M80? Because now M80 can take more ego challenges. BCJ got a 3K just sitting at the half wall on A2. And Blinn's mind games haven't really dismantled M80 either.
I mean, they barely existed. Teague has
Yeah.
barely managed to get a word in edgewise. I'm not even looking at the 0 on his kill feed at this point. I'm just looking at the fact that he has barely managed to get into the back line of these sites, which is half of what they were going for. But on the flip side, now you have no true flash to throw at the problem to enable Okeanos, who is just left sitting around in mid until maybe Blinn gains something effective on a site. You just need all 5 players there, and when you pick Yoru, that is not as effective a strategy as having a different comp.
Bladestorm, Okeanos, he's a believer against rifles, and even a whole op from Koala Noob that wanted to dodge the recon bolt there of Muncie. At least one SMG in the bank from Muncie, but how do you get close enough to somebody for these SMGs to do anything? That's just how big of a map this is. So it'll be up to Okeanos to infiltrate the site, and with that knife from Nismo, Blinn's plans are kind of foiled along with any chances to use that dash.
They're playing the waiting game, but the train is not going to come. M80 has no reason to be less safe than they have played so far. They are waiting for the fight to start, and then they're fighting, and then they're winning. That's how it's gone. That's how it looks for round 6. Okeanos, here's your moment, and there it is. First opening kill as they'll breach the toxic screen to try to build off of it. Nibsmo not making too much of an impact. The Sheriffs can do the damage, but Xander poking his head back out, early frag back to keep this contentious as the spike goes down.
This is a thrifty potential for Blinn. They weren't able to upgrade their weapons, but Koala Noob closes the gap against Mike and Blinn. They set up Okeanos for success and got the plant, but the post plant is what at range M80 are going to thrive in. What a great effort from Blinn, though, at the disadvantage they were at.
Very true. I love the speed at which they were able to take that. And finding that first blood was a diamond in the rough that Blinn should treasure regardless of the victory. It speaks to them saying that there are those opportunities, there are those moments in which you can poke through, but M80 is not going to play to you. You have to just understand that. There's so much distance that has to be made up, and M80 knows it. They're playing to that strength. And Net, good to see him getting in the kill feed this time around. B-site, Blinn's been a bit allergic since this setup has proven to be a bit of a knocker, but now the Cypher setup on A. Looks like Blinn is finally going to dip into the kitty a little bit more when it comes to the midway.
Null Command versus Neural Thefts on both sides. First blood is everything. This could what could decide Blinn to have a turning point. And oh, little hat didn't see that. Koala Noob misses that, and that means Neural Theft advantage for Blinn. Now, which site looks the weakest? You see Xander actually holding close, and with the Viper nerfs, the wall isn't going to last as long as usual. It comes up just in time, but it allows Blinn to isolate that 1v1 against BCJ. He'll take a corpse for the road. Now, 2-main advantage for Blinn as they plant will ensue. And Nismo and Net, I mean, the economy is great for M80. They don't need to save rifles if they don't want to.
It's true. They could absolutely take this fight, and it looks like they'll at least take a chunk of it. Reading the 3 on, understanding that one could be still tucked away in this cranny. They have all the intel they need off of this one lone knife. They just got to win the fight. But darn it, if that isn't tough. Nismo, opener, toxic screen back up. Spaz cannot re-aggress. But you play for time at this stage. There's not much left on the spike. M80's got to rush in, and they will, and Teague will be able to silence the effort just in time. First round cracked open for Blinn.
Yeah, I think as soon as Muncie got eliminated, that was such good information to know that, okay, M80 are advancing on the site. They're not playing B-tunnel. They're not going around the back site. They're walking straight through the middle. And as you pointed out, then all M80 had to do was play behind cover and play time, forcing yeah, M80 to, okay, what am I saying? Blinn were playing in cover, and then M80 had to walk out in the open. That's what I meant. So
I got you.
It's tough, and now you got still an off for Koala Noob because the eco is still fantastic for M80.
Yeah, and no consequences came about this other than the fact that M80 has to kind of cancel that 13-0 graphic that social media manager was working on. Oh well, we'll come back to Icebox because I know they still have it in the back for that. But Blinn, that mid presence was really important, and it came partially at the hands of Teague, grabbing that early presence with the TP. No one from M80 wanted to challenge it. Nobody really wants to challenge this mid presence at all. They feel much more comfortable on site, and so as long as Blinn is able to make this pinch as effective as it was in that previous round, then it could be smooth sailing to a 6-6 comeback here. Rinsing and repeating is one of the favorite aspects of Breeze, for sure. And Teague is gonna do that once more with this dimensional drift just to guarantee the positions on site. That is Nismo found, that is Net found, that is site. Not guaranteed, but certainly close to it.
Oh, the timing on this! Fell through the cage! And Nismo wins that against Teague when Blinn got such good information off of that ultimate. Nets cannot be touched! This is a new and improved anchor of M80!
Ouch! Ouch! Wow! I mean, what a shutdown. Instantaneous from Net. And it's not necessarily because Blinn was too slow either. I think they attacked at the right point. I think that with that dimensional drift, they had all the help they needed. But man, Teague not getting first blood hurts there, dude. You have to, Net has to be your priority the second you get on site, and the only way you do that is that if there's nobody else on site. And if you can't clear the rest of that, then it is really tough to break this apart. Xander opening kill before smoke goes up. What is happening?
What is happening?
Koala?
This is so weird. And Koala Noob just that close with the op? Sure. The one in the... Okay.
All right.
Blinn still struggle to get through every doorway of A, and the spike is down. Blinn actually recovered it, but a 1v5. I mean, it's suffrage. It's disorganization. Losing. You're just the one person who can get you comfortably into the site. And then Blinn tried to go through mid like they usually do, but they just can't win that gunfight against the guy through mid. Now, this is a great effort from Spaz, from a 1v5 to a 1v3, but all this time allotted, you don't have info on the B-side rotators. They could have come through mid. They could be on the flank. That is what's making Spaz freak out right now, but you got the high-low setup on his left. Spaz is looking at every angle, the A doorway, mid, and it could be backside. BCJ Nismo ready as the wall comes up. Spaz will get 3, which always helps the ult generation, but M80 still have a good lead.
And that is as good a timing as you could have gotten from Spaz. Really well done. Again, too little too late, though. That's been seemingly a lot of the message this round. And yeah, Koala Noob, you can see how proud of the team these guys already are, knowing that you'll have that support up the doorway, which M80 now knows Blinn is going to favor. Yet again, clamoring over on mid to try to salvage what presence they can guarantee. Just comes down to being able to turn it into a round. We asked that question once more with a full buy here for Blinn, save for Oak, who is on that Guardian.
Look how far forward BCJ is pushed up too, and it's at A hallway. Either way, Koala Noob is down 2. And that was someone with the op at B Nest, so maybe that's a pretty pivotal pick actually for Blinn, who are just maybe testing the patience of M80. Blinn have been going from site to site, just dashing in, but dislodging the defenders on this A half wall has been almost impossible for Blinn, thinking back of the BCJ 3K or Blinn getting eradicated last round. How can they break M80?
We were hoping for this. Nismo finally abandoning post.
Standing ahead.
Right as Blinn set their sights on A. Perfectly timed on that rotation. Understanding Net would have to come back to guard this operator, make sure you couldn't collapse on a nest. And so Nismo has to resupport B site to make sure it's not too easy on top of that pit. Resources spread far too thin and none allotted to A site. And Blinn able to finally gain that momentum they've been looking for. This looks like a runaway train. This looks like a second round for them, and Monty is going to guarantee it. 2 out the door, and quite packed in on the pyramids, but oh, I've spoken too soon yet again, of course. BCJ for 2, Teague the only one remaining. So much to stare at. BCJ for 1. Nismo is going to stick this for at least half. On top of the blind, will win the fight and hand M80 a 9th. I'm so sorry.
That's tough. BCJ got really good information with the owl drone. The only thing he was missing was he didn't see what was on the right side of pyramids, and Blinn had 2 members there. So it was a pretty important swing from Blinn when M80 didn't know who was there. But mechanically, when M80 can go toe-to-toe with Blinn, they will convert on multi-kills. And then Teague had a chance to clutch, but he got hit by a KO Molly or something that was at the door that brought him down to 5 HP, and that's tough. I thought that was a really successful offense from Blinn, considering BCJ wasn't playing on site like he usually does. But we have 2 rounds now left in the half, with Blinn having a default, leaving the spike behind.
And again, I mean, the first 30 seconds of these rounds looks great. A lot of space taken up that M80 has to respect. And Blinn have done a great job of forcing a couple little transitions out, leaving these sites a little open. Again, the recognition from Blinn is spectacular, but it comes down to winning the fights, and so far M80 have been very much on top of that. BCJ, early Hunter's Fury to deny this outward push. Monsi, the one caught in the fire, and so Blinn will collapse back onto the doors where the Cypher util's sitting pretty. Net, what can you get done here?
And with that first blood, you can't even use a neural theft from Net, so 3 stacks from M80 though at B, where, like I said, BCJ usually plays at A, so it will be up to Xander and Net, and they're getting overwhelmed. And Blinn made their way through mid, and solid picks from A main. This is gonna be a successful plant from Blinn, but how does the post plant look? It's up to Okeanos and Spaz to take control of mid, cut off rotations, perfect time, even when Nismo was mid throwing flash. A huge advantage for Blinn, leaving BCJ and Koala Noob, who still has the op. They're sitting in a hallway. I don't know if the door is open, but that could be, oh, it is open. So sights for this op, but thinking keeping this up may be more important than the round itself.
It looks like that's what they're thinking too. They will let go of this round. Very well done. Some of the few times that Blinn has the opening to get the drop on M80, and they take advantage every single time, full force. The mechanics from this team do not spell a 9-2 deficit, but M80's raw aim, ability to reposition, and of course, their ability to match band-for-band game sense has been such a staunch defender. But the mid-presence is so strong, and Blinn has a couple ults to play off of that mid-presence. Are they going to maintain, or will they go for the rushdown? Try to enact upon this A site that has looked weaker and weaker as the half has gone on. Again, 1 opening, 1 foot in the door. That's all they've needed to guarantee at least the first half of these rounds. They do it one more time.
Teague has used this ult to get his way to the back of the site, and now we'll see the full structure. But Koala Noob, even when Okeanos was updrafting, still gets that pick. Hunter's Fury will follow from Muncie to lay down the red carpet and dealt with his opposition of BCJ. Still not a great numbers. Still not great numbers for Blinn. And with this up at the back of the site, Koala Noob is going to be a problem. But Muncie is getting smoked off. And with the Viper's Pit, Blinn, M80 just surrounded the Viper's Pit. And Blinn, they're getting their positions exposed by this neural theft, and they're getting decayed. M80 go toe for toe, shot for shot. Spaz with not the HP he'd like to work with, but a Viper's Pit that still lives on. M80 have Net tapping the spike. Spaz knows where he is, and Spaz converts the round.
Beautiful pit set up by Spaz to fully collect on another great take. And it's Blinn building on top of a first blood that they suffer rather than cowering away into mid again. And the commitment to this A main rush did indeed pay off in dividends. Again, what a gatekeeper Koala Noob gets to play, but a lot that Blinn had to work with, and so much crucial chip done by Monsi on that ultimate. I think that was at least 250 damage total done by him on that alone. And when you have already that much done, and you're vuln, and you're in the pit, and you're smoked away, there is so much that that Spaz had enough to work with in the end. So a 3-9 one to be relatively proud of, certainly, but now we hit the other end, one where M80 feels even more confident in theory, and it's going to start with the mid presence that they know they can also take.
Pistol went the way of M80 last time, and they began a 6-round win streak off of that momentum. Good info from BCJ, got a ping, forced them back, but with the Vipers smoke right at the doorway, Blinn just get a very lucky 2 picks off of just spraying through the smoke. M80 have carved their way from mid, but the dance that Blinn are doing using the elevations and the half walls allowed them to get some good picks into M80. But the dust settles and BCJ is in a 1v1 versus Mike, and the shock bolt did good initial tag damage. BCJ has time to readjust, and Mike wins that.
An extremely scrappy fight on A site. Both teams very hungry to finalize, but neither team really could. Always someone new to deal with. But Blinn, those opening frags, so important because they know they have to pay attention to very much less. Cave, not an issue for the remainder of that push. They can play for that slightly longer game, play for the distance from bridge, not necessarily be afraid to let M80 have that sight, and then recollapsed on again just enough to get over the line. But so important with this score starting to get closer and closer. And Okeanos, yet again, that first gatekeeper, beautifully done. Mikey to follow up, and B site is absolutely not an option this time around.
Yeah, makes you wonder how did the flashes not get thrown from this one? Did they not hit? And I don't blame them, because Blinn were probably playing behind a wall and were unaffected, playing at the back site with an outlaw. It's just a solid game plan from Blinn, forcing now Net and Xander to change their minds and go to plan B. And with Net's position revealed, this is and them already being at half health each, this is not a good round for M80 to convert on the AT Eco. But they'll see where Blinn are coming from mid, and the lineups are there, and Blinn's weaponry really helped them here.
Scot-free this time around. Very clean, very well done by Blinn to again enact at those right moments huge stoppers that now will be thrust into question again. How heavily will M80 commit with this gun? Diff now. How heavily will Okeanos be able to deny? Because now M80 could have the confidence to just solely focus. Okeanos may have to fully play for that distance, which he is no stranger to, especially in the later stages of each round. He is very prone to coming out of the woodwork very late on these retakes, very close quarters if he needs to. It is gonna be a touchy round, but an important one for Blinn.
Oh, Okeanos got the ankles of BCJ. Was caught lacking trying to throw that Sova util to get information on mid, and Muncie saw 2 swing too. So Blinn know that mid control is being tested there from M80, who traverse their way, maybe want to try and gap close onto those B anchors who played so far away from the entry. And then Koala Noob gets a pick onto Ness and can find his way into the defender's spawn, but Spaz turns and burns with the Sheriff. Could even grab that weapon from Koala Noob. He pleases. M80, a 3 versus 4, still making their way to the back of the spawn, and Blinn thought that they took care of the problem, but the problem still exists, and it's M80 storming into A.
The door stays open for Net, unchecked into backside, and from there, it all comes crashing down for Blinn's chances to swipe this round away. 2 guns gone is good. Amazing chip. in the process, as always. We're going to continue seeing that pressure applied in the numbers. But M80 will keep 3 stable for an A take that will finally go as planned. And unfortunately, I fear that is probably where we're going to gravitate most of this. Okeanos has pretty decisive control over whatever angle the B-side he prefers, and honestly, it might be just better for M80 to not even take that chance.
Next time.
Yeah, M80 got, I feel like, a lot of map freedom when they had mid for free. They went through a hallway, they made their way into spawn. I like that they kept committing towards the spawn despite losing a member, and that was a great reaction out of Spaz to start flushing out the rats from their spawn. But 10-5, M80 a few rounds away, and with weaponry upgraded, with net 1 away from neural theft, how they enter a site to be a big deal. Now they have control of the orb too. With BCJ going for drone, will they be able to see where Spaz is? Well, they got the tag, and Koala Noob's on the hunt, and Blinn are trying to disengage, and Muncie takes advantage of using his teammate as bait.
It's a great peek from Muncie early on. M80 not expecting that at all. And they're hoping that Blinn doesn't expect their own push, but Okeanos is going to open up the hall door, and all of a sudden Blinn have all the tools they need to watch over this site. Spike, of course, will still go down, but M80 have very little to get off the ground with again here. Having to play for the 2 soul angles, and BCJ has to get babysat a little bit here by Nismo. But no angle is guaranteed, and so poor guy has to watch Cave, has to wait for the flank until all 4 are guaranteed, and I fear BCJ's not going to be able to do that before going down.
Blinn have really dissected the positioning of these last post planners well, using the drone from Muncie, bring around the Rosie on the pyramid. They already knew someone was A main, and then you just had Okeanos step up with the op and kind of funnel that Sova of BCJ on the side of the pyramid and have the rest of Blinn focus down the A main players. Kind of a great game plan from Blinn on the retake. It did help that they had 2 extra people compared to M80, but hey, despite how this game started, Blinn's not doing too bad.
They're definitely feeling good on this defensive half. Some very crucial kills by some very crucial players, and that's just how this team moves. It is not stable, it is not consistent, but man, is it fun. And if you can harness that as consistently as Blinn so clearly is vying to do, you've got such a contender on your hands. They show that every time they play, they're showing that now. Does it continue? Does it permeate into the finality of this game? Or does M80 get themselves back up here, trying to still crack open that first match win of the split? A lot of presence early on A side here. M80 indecisive, but they have the pinch. They have 70 seconds to play with for it, and on Breeze, that's basically commitment time. So we'll see some shots fired over into logs. We'll see the sachet over onto the front lines of A site. Is this enough of a circle to work out? No, Teague has been able to remain unfettered with the help of Spaz taking a lot of that early aggression. And the rest of Blinn is here to party. Net certainly is not for much longer. Mike the cutoff man and Blinn, an essential round for longevity this map.
Fantastic comms out of Teague and Spaz for Teague to use his clone to make it look like he was standing on the half wall, holding that angle against mid. I don't think the clone got shot, but it made M80 kind of question what the heck was going on. Teague stayed and firm at holding that mid angle and depended on Spaz to just hold the other. So again, Blinn are very organized and composed on defense when M80 are coming to them. So only 3 rounds separate both these teams, and we got a ton of ults beginning. It will be a Viper's Pit to cover the A entry, a free orb for Nismo. He's 1 away from Null Command, and M80 have Hunter's Fury and Neural Theft. So BCJ has opened up with this before to pressure the A hallway, or once he gets more of a sense of where Blinn is. For now, M80 are still planning.
It's really hard to decide to pull the trigger on this. Again, Blinn doing a great job of walling out intel on B site, while forcing M80 to not be able to go for the full insert up A site, this time with that Viper's Pit. They play for the distance. They play asking to fight in those back lines. And Blinn, very preventative so far on this defense. M80 they'll prefer the site that they have more questions about, understandably so. For this next attempt, 40 seconds on the clock, it's gotta be here, and it's not gotta be now, but the longer you wait, the more time you have for Okeanos to find the perfect position, the more time you have to let these smokes come in at the perfect time to collapse on top of that. But M80, they make themselves known inside the trap. Mikey, the first pick off, and now getting a little bit of pressure on him. Okeanos comes in to save the day. But Mikey might not need help. Okay, he does. Oh, so does Oak, apparently. That's able to push through both.
Oh, Muncie, the last anchor here, just playing his life. 9 seconds left, just needs to prevent the plant, and bro's coming out with his knife out. And Xander is trying to get the plant down. 1 second left with 0.5 to spare. Against Spaz off of the distance, and he had to reload. Bullet diff, and Blinn will be able to also get a free op out of it.
I feel cheaped out. That was about to be a Super Saiyan fight. But man, oh man, did Blinn keep that contested, and that is all they ask for these rounds. Scariest one so far for sure. M80, they're able to take the front of B site pretty convincingly, so Blinn kind of just has to give a lot of space away off rip. They're not very comfortable doing that. You can tell Okeanos is begging to get a little closer to that front line earlier in the game, but he's just not allowed to. It's best for him to be able to play off of these other players like Mikey, like Monsi. We're starting to open up the board more and more as M80 have less and less to offer here. B is not the answer, as concrete as it as concrete of one as they may have liked to have, but at the very same time, it feels like A is still such a better option for them. The ways that they can set up after getting this spike down seem too interesting, too full. It seems like there are so many more options for this execute on the former. And Blinn, sure, they have answers to it for the distance, but sure, they have answers to it playing from places like Bridge. And M80 is not confident enough to handle Hall either. They haven't been able to really poke through anywhere other than doors, but they do it so quickly. If they're just able to farm advantage a little earlier off of that, then this should be a done deal of a sight. But Blinn has just been so good at this denial at just the right moments. And if they can keep it up, then you can't give them the consistency argument anymore. They just know what to do at the right time.
M80 can use that timeout to figure out how these ults are going to work. Offensive Viper's Pit, Neural Theft, like whatever it is. Actually, no Neural Theft this time. They used it last. As M80, they walk into Blinn, who have a camera set up at B. They have trips, and Spaz is swinging off of those. So M80... to play at an information disadvantage went their favor, and I don't blame them. They're going to try and test out B again. There's a trip at the front. I think it's gone now. But how can you limit Koala Noob? Does he invest? Oh, he already has the knives out. So Owl Drone, see if he can dissect where those anchors are, but updraft, dash in, 16 HP and a dream for Koala Noob, who still doesn't even know where they are. And you got Null Command activated from Nismo to weaken the site as much as possible. And on the flank is Blinn too. Teague causing a ruckus, gets the flash onto BCJ, who escapes through B main. Offensive Viper Pit for M80 to have some kind of shelter base, but Blinn picked them apart at the perimeter, leaving Koala Noob with his position revealed, knives in hand still, against 3 of Blinn, who rely on the Owl Drone there of Monsi, who didn't see anything. Koala Noob able to readjust his position. Did he cross in front of cross in front of Teague? Picks off Mike.
10 seconds left.
Muncie and Teague can play together. 7 seconds left to plant. Muncie and Teague can't prevent it, but Blinn can have the last laugh, and so they do, and Blinn will keep themselves within 1.
Shaking after a huge breach to the backline by Koala Noob that almost started a riot on B side, but luckily, again, Blinn policing on that front line so effectively. The buck stops right when M80 gets to that 50% margin. Blinn are not giving away any of their side of the field.
Yes,
Regardless of rotation, regardless of speed, They have always been there. And it doesn't come from their direction either. Or misdirection, rather. They have mild presence up mid. They have mild presence on the front lines of sites. It really just comes down to them showing out when it matters. And that's just how this team lives.
Nobody home for A. Okeanos actually go. Oh, chill peek from Xander. Hello, Op. M80. Also have BCJ running a pistol and Guardian for Ned, so
My camera is
not the
destroyed.
weaponry that looks good for M80, and you're starting to worry with kind of this Blinn defensive comeback that they've been able to mantle. Well, wow, Ned has made their way through a hallway and could signal that when the plan unfolds that he can come out of the doorway, maybe get eyes on someone like Teague or someone like Okeanos. Can you get the op out of the hands of Blinn?
Well, uncertainty is still definitely not a factor, so you've got to act fast, but Net's caged himself off temporarily. The fight has already begun, and well, M80's playing a disadvantage until Net's able to make himself known. Monsi will creep out from under the bridge, so it's still a tough fight, one that isn't decided. In fact, Monsi's going to win that one out, so it'll be a 2v3 on top of
30
Spike.
seconds left.
And Hunter's Fury's just going to get launched out now to try and distract
Last
Koala,
player standing.
as well as BCJ, who's the
down
target.
A.
He will go down, and Koala once again forced to fight for his life, for Spike, for round, and now for the tie in 1v3, where two are still posted up in the safety of Hall.
Oh, yeah, it still got spotted by the owl drone, and as you would expect, a post plant to be holding from the other side of pyramids, but trying to catch them on the drop down, takes the knife to get the extra speed to readjust around the pyramid. 1v3. It's just trying to get one before swapping positions, knowing he could not just out gunfight Blinn in that case, but we have now tied ourselves 10-10.
What a stunning turnaround from Blinn's defense here. And that's the crazy thing, is we saw elements of this in Blinn's attack. We saw the points in which, they also could invade Hall. They also could, shake up this presence in mid. We see M80 hitting all the same story beats, and we see them coming up against the same roadblocks. When is the right time to get enabled? When is the right time to poke out on that secondary angle? Because Blinn seems too
goes
prepped
here.
for you to do that at any point in time.
This is a nice spot.
Quite the stack on B side at this stage. Feels right, though, since the retake game is so figured out at this point. You just want to guarantee that M80 doesn't get the drop on you early here, which they won't. Dimensional Drift will guarantee that, at least for now, M80 has their heart set on A site, save for Net, who's been poked out.
He's not gonna want to. Teague's not gonna want to take that 1v1 and got info that there's someone mid, but he cleared all of B side, so the hit is at A, and you're gonna know that because the spike is planned out already. M80 had their decision forced, but how do they position in the post plant? Always playing now in A main, especially with the drones and the util from Blinn.
Oh my god, they're finally going back to cave.
Finally playing from A main, yeah, and M80 just gonna see the high-low setup. They can burst down Blinn. And it works. I mean, Monsi got a pick with a shock bolt. And M80 are gonna try and break line of sight and play their lives. It's time. That is against Blinn. Your flash. Koala Noob against Teague. Teague wins that but goes toe for toe. And with Monsi running out of time, M80 have burned them down to take back the lead in their favor.
They finally had enough to work off of to make the post plant as trivial as they wanted it to be. Just playing from main, having endless resources. Came down to getting on that A site. And Blinn, it seems that you can't hold that much weight on one end. You can't simply play for the retake. It is clear you have to have something to call your own before that spike goes down. And Okeanos will be the initial answer to that, like he was before. Respread to a pretty solid default, but Hall is now going to be the victim of Monsi's attention, early attention. Koala is actually going to sniff out the gunfire. And Blinn going to play for the long haul.
BCJ is about to encounter Teague as well. And if BCJ could take care of that, that's one flash out of the picture. What? BCJ's getting hit through the box, so he's like, what the heck is this? And then Teague teleports back to the B site. Meanwhile, Koala Noob versus Monsi. haven't had a good exchange yet. BCJ is the only one missing health. And the spike is still mid, so not much progress for M80.
I'm just trying to get a positive util trade, and so far, no dice. Same discipline that we saw from M80 on the defense. You have to respect it, and then you have to shut it down. What's the pick of the litter for M80 this time? They've taken the pedestal. Do they run it down into doors again and risk that bridge presence being the overwhelming thing that it was? It looks like that's what they'll do.
30 seconds
Ooh,
left.
what a shot from Okeanos. And as the hit is coming, M80 cut short, left out to try. Muncie, the pinnacle of this defense. As BCJ won't be able to keep the op either. Blinn tied things up after M80 had just closed down their 5-round win streak. M80, yeah, I thought they had a handle on things. This was not supposed to go this way, and M80 have to talk more on how they want to close out this map.
I mean, you're just not expecting Blinn to have it held together as long as they've needed to this game. You don't expect M80 to not be able to follow up on these attack plans as often as they did. But the early shutdowns have just been so important. And there has been no clear way to deal with it. Nismo has to stay alive in order to guarantee the execute onto Okeanos. And who knows if he's not there? Then what do you throw? Do you just use knife into whatever backline will catch, one who's hanging out in a corner? You have no clear way of knowing where these people are, and that is apparently the fulcrum here for M80's attack. How you can find the right time to open up the hall door that they've been controlling so well. How you're able to funnel into the back corners of sight like Koalanoob has done once or twice here. The elements are present, but they just have not come at the right point together. Blinn constantly first bloods, constantly shutdowns on the util, constantly just not giving a care about the flash or the null or the vuln or whatever is tossed in front of them because they know they have so much support wherever it's necessary.
It's just good timings on Spaz's smokes too, like covering up A and knowing the right moment to slow down M80, especially with the smoke nerfs that happened to Viper. And for Blinn to have as much value as they've had. Now, there is a pit, which can always be brought up early. Yes, that'll cover up the A cave. Meanwhile, M80 made their way through B, and they know that Tiga's kind of hung around this corner of the map before, and M80 have brought reinforcements to deal with that. M80 could even go through Nest if they wanted to be cheeky and go through Spawn. And using now the Owl drone, M80 got good info on the B site. You've cornered Blinn, and even with the clone, Teague cannot escape. And Muncie is there as their backup plan, their get out of jail free card, but M80 are fully established with the Viper wall up. They could be safe to plant, but they think Blinn are closer than they actually are. Muncie is actually on the other side of Nismo, who is a pistol. So if Nismo could take this weapon away, that would be huge, because it's only a one-man advantage for M80, and things have really quieted down. Almost started paranoia on Blinn's side, not knowing if M80 traversed through mid. It's Muncie, Recon, or actually the Shock. Now you hear the gunfire, you know where M80 are set up at. The wall comes back up, allowing the plant to go through, and as soon as the wall drops, Xander is killed from behind. 3v3, here is the push, and the op shot misses. A teammate goes down. Okeanos knives out to deal with BCJ. The spike has been tapped. BCJ has his position revealed, and great synergy and teamwork from Blinn to deal with M80 on the post plant.
M80 just forced to wait for the screen to be ready again to be able to play off of it. They're so terrified of stepping into any open angle. And to be fair, Blinn has been very much available when necessary. M80 are very rightfully scared to commit to getting a spike down, commit to repositioning for the post plant. Because for Blinn's credit, the fight is perpetual for them. They never want to let it go. And so it's really tough to find that window for M80 to actually commit to playing after the fact. One more opportunity to do so to take us to overtime. Otherwise, Blinn will take their pick of the map.
You can tell there's hesitation on the M80 side, but no longer now that you've taken care of Okeanos and you got the neural theft. Oh, you pinged that this team. Yoru is very close. Kowalanu goes and jumps into it, almost his own Hunter's Fury. Either way, they did not deal with the problem. Teague is still in that corner, and Muncie has the crossfire. Xander on the flank now directs the attention away, but as soon as Muncie refocuses, he gets even a second kill out of that. M80's timing is just a little bit off, and despite having first blood, M80 choked this 9-3 lead to give Blinn map 1.
Just not every check done, not every corner cleared. M80 faltering at just the right moments. And Blinn, they orchestrate it all. It is the base level play that we have seen from these guys time and time again, materializing into one of the most important map wins we've seen them have so far. And again, feels like we say that every week, but the order of magnitude that these guys have been able to counteract M80's playstyle is so important and leads to great potential things going on, even though we're going to Icebox next.
I can't believe the map went this way. Like, the map picks and bans technically favored M80 when they got rid of Bind. They got rid of Blinn's favorite map. This Breeze map is M80's choice, I believe. And even then, Blinn had the upper hand. They had the double duelist. It's kind of quirky. It's something that maybe M80 haven't faced before. But comms broke down for M80, and I don't, they got a new IGL. They're still adjusting some things. But M80 losing that map should have not happened with a 9-3 half. But we'll see how they can recollect themselves on map number 2 coming up after this.